Listening to the guide on the side. I'm Ivan, learning something new every day, through people I meet, books I read, places I go, and conversations I stumble into. I'm here to share those lessons with you. Let's get to the episode. Why do I see Anthony Bourdain's quotes everywhere? I was scrolling through social media the other day when yet another Anthony Bourdain quote popped up on my feed. Something about travel broadening the mind, or food being a universal language. And it got me thinking, why is it that nearly 7 years after his death, this former chef's words seem to follow us everywhere we go online? The simple answer is that Anthony Bourdain managed to do something most people are desperately trying to achieve these days. He lived authentically. In our age of curated Instagram feeds and carefully crafted personal brands, Bourdain was refreshingly, sometimes brutally, real. He didn't pretend to have all the answers. He admitted his struggles with addiction, and he approached the world with genuine curiosity rather than performative enlightenment. But there's something deeper going on here. When you really look at why his quotes have become the internet's favorite philosophical nuggets, you start to see how perfectly he captured the anxieties and aspirations of our current moment. Think about it. We're living through what sociologists call liquid modernity, where traditional structures have dissolved and we're all desperately seeking meaning. Bauman wrote about how modern life lacks the solid foundations our grandparents took for granted, leaving us floating in uncertainty. Enter Bourdain, who somehow made that uncertainty feel like an adventure rather than a crisis. His quotes work because they speak to our collective wanderlust in an age where actual wandering has become increasingly complicated. Travel changes you, he wrote. As you move through this life and this world, you change things slightly. You leave marks behind, however small. And in return, life and travel leaves marks on you. These aren't just pretty words about tourism. They're offering us a framework for finding meaning through experience rather than accumulation. What's particularly clever about Bourdain's enduring appeal is how he positioned himself as an anti-guru guru. Whilst everyone else was selling certainty, he was selling curiosity. I'm not afraid to look like an idiot, he once said, and in our age of imposter syndrome and social media perfectionism, that kind of vulnerability feels revolutionary. The quotes that get shared most often tend to fall into a few categories that reveal what we're really hungry for. There are the ones about food as cultural bridge building. Food is everything we are. It's an extension of nationalist feeling, ethnic feeling, your personal history, your province, your region, your tribe, your grandma. This resonates because we're living in an era of polarization, and food offers us a way to connect across difference that feels both profound and accessible. Then there are the travel philosophy quotes that speak to our FOMO addled souls. If I'm an advocate for anything, it's to move. As far as you can, as much as you can. Across the ocean, or simply across the river. Walk in someone else's shoes, or at least eat their food. These get shared by people stuck in office jobs, dreaming of escape, but they're offering something more sophisticated than simple escapism. They're suggesting that meaning comes through encounter with otherness. But here's what's really fascinating. Bourdain's quotes have become a form of cultural currency. Sharing them signals certain values, openness to experience, intellectual curiosity, a rejection of narrow-mindedness. They've become shorthand for saying, I'm the kind of person who values authentic experience over material success. This is partly why his words have outlasted those of many more traditionally accomplished public figures. Bourdain wasn't selling us a lifestyle brand or a self-help philosophy. He was simply documenting what he'd learned from paying attention to the world around him. Context and memory play powerful roles in all the truly great meals in one's life, he observed, and we share this not just because it sounds wise, but because it gives us permission to value our own experiences as meaningful. The timing of his cultural canonization matters enormously. His peak influence coincided with the rise of social media platforms that reward pithy, shareable wisdom. But more importantly, his perspective emerged just as we were all becoming overwhelmed by choice and possibility. Bourdain offered a way to navigate abundance, not by consuming everything, but by approaching whatever you encounter with genuine attention and respect. There's also something to be said about how his quotes function as a kind of secular spirituality. In an increasingly godless age, we're still searching for transcendence, and Bourdain offered it through the everyday sacred: a perfect meal, a meaningful conversation with a stranger, the simple act of paying attention to where you are and who you're with. "Your body is not a temple, it's an amusement park," he famously wrote. "Enjoy the ride." This kind of philosophy appeals to people who've rejected traditional religion, but still want their lives to mean something beyond mere survival. It's permission to embrace pleasure without guilt, to find the sacred in the profane. What makes his continued relevance particularly poignant is how his personal struggles with depression and addiction have become part of his appeal, rather than diminishing it. His quotes about darkness: "I understand there's a guy inside me who wants to lay in bed, smoke weed all day, and watch cartoons and old movies. My whole life is a series of stratagems to avoid and outwit that guy," resonate because they acknowledge that wisdom doesn't come from having everything figured out. In our current moment, when authenticity has become perhaps the most valued commodity, Bourdain's willingness to show his wounds alongside his wanderlust feels particularly precious. He wasn't selling perfection, he was selling the possibility that our imperfections might be exactly what make life interesting. The internet has turned his observations into memes, his insights into Instagram captions, his life philosophy into bite-sized inspiration. But perhaps that's fitting for someone who always understood that the most profound truths often come disguised as simple pleasures. As he put it, good food is very often, even most often, simple food. The same might be said for good wisdom. So when you see that Bourdain quote pop up in your feed tomorrow, and you will, remember that you're not just seeing travel advice or food philosophy. You're seeing our collective attempt to find meaning in an uncertain world, to stay curious in the face of cynicism, and to remain open to experience, even when experience sometimes breaks our hearts. In the end, perhaps that's why his words have become so quotable. They remind us that the point isn't to have all the answers, but to keep asking interesting questions. And in our current moment, that might be exactly the kind of wisdom we need. That is it for today. You've been listening to The Guide on the Side, where I share what I'm learning from people, books, and conversations. I hope something here stays with you, sparks a thought, or opens a door. I'm Ivan, and I'll be back soon with more. Until next time, may your days be full of curiosity, and I'll see you in the next episode.